I was a Christian Bible thumper. I practically lived in church. I learned the Bible very well, and I woke up, I went to sleep, and I dreamed everything about God and Jesus. My family is a big military family. My brother joined, my cousin joined, my father was in the military, my uncle was in the military, so I joined the military too. My brother was in the army too. He was stationed in Alaska. I was stationed in Korea, the opposite ends of the world, right? But subhanAllah, every week we would call each other. So we're talking, and he said, "Oh yeah, I have to tell you something." I'm like, "Yeah, well, what is it?" He's like, "I'm Muslim. I'm in disbelief." And then I just start crying. So we hang up the phone there. So I said, "All right, I know my Bible. I'm going to study this Islam, and I'm going to use it to bring him back."
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right, brother. What's your name and where you from?
My name is Jacob Marino. I live in Yonkers, but I will have to add I was born and raised in the Bronx. But yeah, I'm a 15-year resident of Yonkers now.
Okay, so what was your experience like growing up?
I grew up in the 80s in New York City, the quote-unquote crack era. And, it was quite an adventure because all I saw in the South Bronx was destruction. It looked like a war zone. Torn down buildings. There's a famous picture of like Jimmy Carter looking like lost, exploring the Bronx because it was so bad. And that was my childhood. Destruction and negativity all over the place. But alhamdulillah, I had, good parents that kept me, either by the whip or by, by stern talking on a good path.
Did you always believe in God?
I always believed in God. I was a Christian Bible thumper, let me tell you. I remember my mom, being 5 years old, and her telling me about heaven and about, one day she's not going to be here, but we'll be reunited in heaven. And that always stuck with me. Even as remember, 4 or 5 years old, and I still remember it to this day. And then when I was around 9 or 10, my father really put me into it. Church was everything for us. Every Sunday in church, I practically lived in church. I learned the Bible very well, and I woke up, I went to sleep, and I dreamed everything about God and Jesus. As a Christian, everything was about my religion. And, so God was always in my mind, in my heart, so much so that, again, growing up in the Bronx, in that era, I was taught not only by my parents, but by my faith, don't lie, don't cheat, don't curse. I stood out from my friends. They used to call me, at 10 years old, "You're an old man," because I didn't want to do mischievous things with them. Just, God is watching me, So I was always, cognizant of God.
So how did you hear about Islam and what attracted you to it?
New York City, it's a melting pot. So we have everything. So I was aware that there were people called Muslims, and they wear funny hats, and, and they don't eat pork. And they have this prophet named Muhammad. That's all I know. That's the extent. And honestly, I think that's the extent of today of non-Muslims, what they know about Islam. But I was aware of Islam that much in New York City. My brother had a Muslim friend. There were Muslims, in my school, in junior high school and high school. So I was aware of them. So, as a Christian, I used to say, that's just a desert religion. That's my train of thought. That's a desert religion. And so as a young man, I went, I graduated from high school. My family is a big military family. So it was inevitable that I was joining. My brother joined, my cousin joined, my father was in the military, my uncle was in the military, everybody's in the military. So I joined the military too. And so when I was stationed in Korea, and subhanAllah, it's amazing that now that I think about this, my roommate was Muslim and he had the Bible open. And I was like, "You're a Muslim, why do you have the Bible?" And he was like, "Oh, he started talking to me, all contradictions and this and that." And I used to be, I had the veil over my eyes. I'm a Bible thumper, man. I'm like, nah, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's my roommate, we're in the army. My brother was in the army too. He was stationed in Alaska, the opposite ends of the world, right? But subhanAllah, every week we would call each other. We grew up with each other. We had a big family that, because of some circumstances, we were split up, but him and I always were together. And so one day, one conversation, it was a Friday, I remember, because the weekend's coming up and now, I'm going to get a little 2-day pass so I can leave the base. So we're talking and he said, "Oh yeah, I have to tell you something." I'm like, "Yeah, well, what is it?" He's like, "I'm Muslim." And I can still hear it the way he said it. "I'm Muslim." And I'm quiet and I'm like, I'm in disbelief. And then I just start crying and I'm crying. And these are not tears of joy, brother. I am sad. I am thinking, how can he betray us like this? How can he do something like that? I'm in denial. And, he told me, this is, I found Islam and this is what I want to do. So we hang up the phone there, and, I'm questioning everything, how we grew up. Because remember I told you that Bible thumper, something. He was with me, we were hand in hand in all this, in Christianity. And for him to be a Muslim now, it was just so shocking to me. And my roommate's Muslim too. So I said, all right, I'm going to see what this Islam is about. Because I know my Bible. So I'm going to study this Islam, and I'm going to use it to bring him back. That's my plan. So that starts a little bit of a little adventure for me.
Tell me when the moment you realized Islam was for you.
I have to preface the answer with this, because it's an integral part of my journey, and it goes along with my brother. So in the Army, I'm studying Islam to use it against Islam. And in the Army, so I go where they tell me to go. So I got orders to go to Iraq. So I'm like, oh man. So before my deployment to Iraq, I'm doing my studying. I go online and I start downloading a lot of different things about Islam. There's this one specific thing that I saw. I don't know if you remember Napster and stuff like that you can just download anything. Or LimeWire. There were things that you could just download without paying for it. So I put Islam, and there was this one thing that's in Arabic, and it's connected with Islam. So I download it, and then I play it, and it's Arabic. I don't know what it is, but I just burned it on CD. I'm going to take it with me and during my studies. So here I am. I go to Iraq. And so Iraq, I'm there for a year, 365 days. When I first arrived there, I'm thinking I'm only going to be there for maybe 2 months. After 2 months, they told me, no, we're here a year. My heart went from here to the ground. I told myself, I'm not going to survive. It was hard enough, brother, to make it to those 2 months. Because every day I'm thinking, when I wake up, today is going to be my day. It's my last day on earth. And to feel that stress, and, it was overwhelming. So at the end of the day of whatever I'm doing, any mission I'm at, I come back to base, go back to my little tent. I am so numb because I'm too stressed out. So I get my CD player out, put my headphones on, and I start listening to that Arabic thing that I downloaded. And it's calming me down. All right. It's calming me down. And, and for the moment from when I press play, and it's maybe like a 5-minute thing, I'm lost. I'm not in Iraq. I'm not on in that tent. I'm in total safety, and I'm good. And so it's like a refresher for me. I'm good. And so I do that every day. Whenever I'm feeling really, really stressed out, and every day, I'm telling you, today, every day is my last day. I am going to die. And when I realize at the end of the day I'm still alive, even now I'm shaking a little bit. I just play that little thing, and it's like a reset for me. So fast forward, I got my orders that I'm going home. SubhanAllah, I made it. I made my whole tour without a scratch. I come home, and I don't come home the same man that I went over there. Came home bitter, angry. I came home a different man. I lost family members because I pushed them away. I just didn't want to do. I didn't want to do with anyone. I wanted to be by myself. Isn't what I know now is post-traumatic stress. And so, I'm a loner. My friends who used to call me the priest, because again, I never cursed, anything like that. I came back like a drunken sailor, so to speak. I was a 180. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to study anything. My little thing that I wanted to do with Islam with my brother. I was like, I gave up everything. But those stressful moments were still there. And so I would every now and then get that CD out. I go into my car, and I just, close my eyes and I listen to it. And that would, again, that's my reset. That calms me down. So eventually, you know what? I put that CD away. I'm living my life. 20 years after I came back from Iraq, brother, 20 years later, this is about COVID era. I forgot to mention, during my little studies, I met a Yemeni brother in one of the bodegas in New York City. He gave me a Quran. And from the day he gave me the Quran, I've been through all over the world. When you travel, you lose things here and there, but I always had that Quran with me. Always. So 20 years after I came back from Iraq, I'm in my house. I looked at that Quran, a lot of dust on it. I took it out. There's dust everywhere. I'm coughing. I said, you know what? I'm going to read this. I'm going to read it. And so I read it, Surah Al-Fatiha, all the way to chapter 114. And so when I finished the Quran, this was maybe like 2 or 3 days before Christmas. I got in my car, my wife, I dropped her off at work. She works in Manhattan. There's a masjid in Manhattan. There's a big masjid. I told myself, if there's a parking spot, because in New York City, there's no parking anywhere. I said, if there's a parking spot near that masjid, then I'm going to park and I go in. If not, I'm going home. As soon as I get there, subhanAllah, a parking spot right across the street. I said, all right, yeah. I said, all right, God, do you want me to park? I'm going to park. I park in, I go into the masjid, talk to the brother. I'm like, yes, I want to talk about, I want to learn about, I want to talk about Islam. He said, oh, the Imam's on his way. The Imam gets there. And I told him, yes, I read the Quran and, I think I want to go toward Islam. The Imam was like, okay, you know what, take your time, learn more. And then when we come back, you can take your shahada. I said, no, I'm ready now. I want to take my shahada. So he said, okay. So I took my shahada. I met my brother soon there, right there that same day. I called him. He said, I got to meet you. Because remember, he's Muslim. It was 1998, I remember. He became Muslim. And so he was so happy, I'm Muslim. And I started, I'm in my path. This is December. So they gave me a lot of pamphlets and it's so overwhelming. And then the transliteration, I'm like, oh, I'm reading something. I'm like, wait, this sounds familiar. When I'm reading, how to pray, this sounds familiar. I said, well, I'm home, right? I said, wait a minute. I go into my closet, into my archives, right? And I dig out that OCD that I haven't listened to in 20 years. Put it in, I press play. When I press play, it said, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmani Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. It was Al-Fatiha. It was Al-Fatiha that I listened to every day in Iraq. That gave me calm. It was Al-Fatiha that I listened to when I came back and I was battling with that post-traumatic stress. It was the words of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that as a non-Muslim gave me the comfort and the peace that I needed at the time. Thinking that today I'm going to die, and Allah said, you know what, listen to this. And so realizing that it was Al-Fatiha, I said, well, I already know how to say it. And I've been Muslim for 5 minutes, subhanAllah. So, I tell myself this was, all this time for 20 plus years, I had the veil over my eyes. I couldn't see Allah, but I realized Allah saw me. And, He allowed me to live as a kafir for those 20 years. Because sometimes I say to myself, I said, and I don't question the qadr of Allah. He wanted me to be Muslim at the age when I have gray hairs, right? I said, imagine if I was a Muslim as a young man. But I said, no. Allah wanted me to be a Muslim at this age. As a matter of fact, I learned, and this is the beauty of Islam, when you keep learning more, it's so beautiful that 50,000 years before the creation of everything, Allah ordered the pen to write that Jacob is going to be a Muslim at this age. Not at 20 years old, because maybe I would not have accepted that the Islam at that time or understood it the way I do now as an older man. So that really, realizing that Al-Fatiha helped me all these years, it really gave me an iman boost. So that, in a nutshell, was how I got to that point in Islam.
So when you took your shower, how did the experience feel?
I remember I was so nervous, thinking about my family, because except for my brother, everybody, they were Christian, all of them. And before my shahada, the conversation with the Imam, he's like, is anybody forcing you to do? I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. And I told him, I know that I'm going to hit brick walls. I know that I'm going to have problems. I know that I'm going to hit a lot of bumps in this road from within my home and outside. But I can't deny the truth anymore. I can't, because, I don't want to walk on this earth blind like I have been, knowing the truth now. And so there was fear, but not fear of Islam. That part I wanted. I definitely wanted that. It was fear of the external things that I knew I was going to have to deal with. Family, friends, which amazingly, being Puerto Rican, I'm a minority in New York City. Now I'm a Muslim. That's a 2 times a minority, right? But as a Puerto Rican, little micro racism, you get to experience in New York City. But again, New York City is so multicultural and melting pot. There's Puerto Ricans everywhere, Dominicans everywhere, Arabs everywhere. So people are used to something, they really ignore it. But as a Muslim, sometimes I wear my kufi. Was the first time I really felt and experienced racism. I had a brother. When I say brother, it was a black brother, African American. I guess he didn't like what I was, how I looked. He was like, "Go back to your own country." I'm like, "Come on, well, I'm from the Bronx. I can take the D train up there, But, that little experience, I said, SubhanAllah. I'm like, this is just one little taste of what Muslims are, and this is a little taste of what Muslims are dealing with, in America.
How did your life change after becoming a Muslim?
Sounds like an oxymoron. It became easy and hard at the same time. It became easy because now life, there's a framework there already. There are things in life that I don't have to think about because it's there. How to be a good husband, how to be a father, how to be a good son. I got to tell you, my father, my relationship with my dad, if I saw him once a year, that was a lot. Pre-Islam, I didn't want to see him. Remember, I didn't want to see anybody. I threw away everyone from out of my life. And as a Muslim, let me tell you, my relationship with my father is beautiful. I see him all the time. I will have, the best way to say it is I'm fulfilling the role as a son according to the Quran and the Sunnah. And by doing that, and I do it without thinking because this is what we're commanded to do. And it's so easy to do. And you know what? The byproduct of that is happiness. Because now I got my dad and I'm happy and, I'm flourishing, with my son now. And now my father, he knows his grandson. So that's the easy part. The hard part is, being the only Muslim in my immediate family feels like I'm on a desert island. I love my wife. I love my son. I love them. And my son is 3 years old, and inshallah, he'll, continue with Islam. But the hard part is feeling like I'm in a desert island because when I fast, I wake up and do Fajr by myself. Suhoor by myself. Breaking the fast by myself. Eid by myself. That's hard. That's so hard. But subhanAllah, I will say, and this is the qadr of Allah. 1 month after my Shahada, I'm in my local masjid and I think it was something like a little poster or something like that. And it was partially covered with the Imam Wesley Reverts, Reconnect, and Zoom. I said, oh, well, I'm a revert. I said, well, let me try to, let me see what's this about. And so Zoom, and I don't know anything about Zoom, but this is the COVID era, all right, post-COVID. My wife knows all about Zoom. I'm like, what is this Zoom? Oh, you download it on your iPad. Can you do it for me? So she sets it up for me. And so the little phone number or whatever, she boop, at the time and place, I logged on. When I logged on, I see this Imam Wesley there and Brother Abdul Rashid, just us three. And, I tell them who I am. Let me tell you, that was 3 years ago. I've been Muslim, alhamdulillah, 3 years. From last there's 3 brothers there. From those 3 brothers, if you go today to Reverts Reconnect Zoom classes, sometimes there are hundreds of people on it. And that's such a blessing from Allah that little desert island feeling that I get sometimes, it's taken away by just logging on or by just calling. Knowing that though physically some of the brothers are far away from me, we have a WhatsApp group. We just, they say, listen, brothers, I'm feeling this, or what does this mean? And then 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, somebody's up. You get a response right there. And so I get that connection there. So that's like, the medicine for the loneliness as a Muslim there. Nevertheless, I'm still right there by myself, I try to go to the masjid, especially during Ramadan, to break my fast, but because of circumstances, I do it by myself. And alhamdulillah, my wife, there were days she fasted with me, and she makes sure she makes some halal food for me. So that's great. So it's gotten a lot better. 3 years as a Muslim, and inshallah, when I'm 30 years as a Muslim, inshallah, things will be a lot brighter than what it is now. I try to convey this to new brothers, to learn as much as you can, because when you think you know something and you really don't know, that's going to be a heavy burden on your shoulders. So the prayers, I'm like, okay, 5 times a day. How am I going to, what if I'm here and what am I supposed to do? And, what if I'm nowhere near, I was so stressed out. What to do? So there's this Instagram page It's called Places You Pray. And they showcase people praying everywhere and anywhere. Brother, when I saw that, just the first picture that they posted gave me such an inspiration to like pray anywhere. From that point on, I said, you know what? Wherever I am, I'm going to pray. And then when I learned that, the window of prayer I love soccer. So I'm in Yankee Stadium watching my soccer team. When I get the notification it's time for Salah, I tell my wife, I'll be right back, and I'm praying in Yankee Stadium. I don't care who's looking at me. The subway, the Yankee Stadium, like I said, the library, anywhere I am, when it's time to pray, I'm going to do it. And so that fear that I once had, the biggest part of the problem, it vanquished. Allah has alleviated that for me. So again, the biggest fear became fun, I should say.
How did your family and friends react to your conversion?
A lot of them are confused. They don't understand Islam. And so when I tell them, I say, Moses and Aaron and Noah, you heard of those people? Well, those are prophets. We have that in Islam too. Even myself, I'm guilty of it. Prior to becoming a Muslim, I was thinking that Islam was something like a religion from Mars, something akin or close to Hinduism, which after just looking into Islam, you see that it's, the purest monotheistic religion in the world. And so I still have a lot of friends that don't understand that. So little by little, I try, whenever we get together, I let them bring the subject up. I don't, I say to myself, I'm just going to be who I am. I'm Muslim, I'm going to be Muslim. If they ask me, I'll answer their questions. And so I do. And so inshallah, that little seeds are planted, at least for tolerance, if anything else. So there's still confusion there, like, listen, I'm not going to go to the bar with you anymore. Sorry, brother. If you want to go to the coffee shop house, we can do that. Let's do that. But, just a few things in my life has changed. There's certain places I'm not going to go with you, but there are great substitutes that we can do. Family members, there's a lot of denial there on their part. A lot of denial. Like, no, it's a phase. It's a phase. So, but then I said, my brother's been Muslim more than 20-something years. And, I've been Muslim 3 years so far. And so, if it's a phase, let it be a phase until, I'm in the grave. Yeah. So that's still a little bit of a minor bumpy road with the friends and family. But inshallah, things will be, we need some construction guys to smooth out that road,
What would you say your favorite thing about Islam?
The fact that it makes life so easy. I mean, it's so easy. Like, as a Christian, when you steal something, stealing is wrong, obviously. You're going to get punished. It's a sin. Grain of rice, $1 million, it's a sin. Boom, you're getting punished. In Islam, there are minor sins, there are major sins. But I discovered, subhanAllah, that a lot of acts of ibadah, your minor sins are being washed away. You go to do wudu, your sins will be, washed away. Do 2 rak'ah, the sins will be washed away. Smile at somebody, that's charity. Your sins will be wiped away. And so I say this is a win-win situation. There's no way, if you understand that, the path becomes even clearer to me, So as long as you actively understand, try to stay away from these sins. Just because it's easy to cleanse the minor sins doesn't mean, do it. But it just means, follow a bad deed with a good deed. At least I know that, my plan of action, it exists there. So, again, like I said before, the framework of life is there too. Easy. I don't have to worry about, how I'm going to be the good father. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught me how to do that. So now I can focus on other things in order to, better the life of my son, my wife, my family, and worship Allah even better. That's one of my favorite things about Islam.
What's your favorite thing about Allah?
My favorite thing about Allah, it's amazing that it's my favorite, and at the same time, I don't understand it. His mercy. Because everywhere in the Quran, most merciful. And then the Prophet ﷺ taught us that, there's a woman with her little child, and there's a fire there, and she wants to protect her son from that fire, all right? Allah has more mercy toward us than the mother to her child. And I'm trying to wrap my head around that, because that mercy is so beautiful. I can understand the mercy of a mother. Something more than that is like, the only way I'll understand it is, inshallah, when I'm entering the gates of Jannah. When, inshallah, I'll understand it. But just the journey to try to understand it is, I love that about Allah. His mercy is just like again, the descriptions of the mercy, it is more than the universe. It's so great.
What would you say one of your favorite hadith or verses in the Quran?
I would say this, that, and I'll paraphrase, you're not a believer until you want for your brother what you want for yourself. When I first learned the wording of that hadith, subhanAllah, I was already experiencing that from the other Muslims. And then it made sense. I'm like, wow, that's why they're doing so much for me, because it's like they're doing it for themselves. And, I love it so much because it really builds brotherhood. It's the cement. That is the cement of our brotherhood, and that's the cement that will keep our ummah together. If you were to follow that hadith right there, truly, and everybody, imagine this world, how it would be. Because we got to be honest, our deen, and I don't know, let me rephrase that, our faith and iman is a spectrum. Because even me, there are high days and there are low days. And we have Muslims that, are Muslim by name, and there are Muslims that are Muslims, or believers. But if you just follow the hadith, if your faith or your iman is low, follow the hadith. Go out there and give, if you have to travel 2 hours to give your brother a bottle of water, then do it, because you will want that bottle of water. And so that is my favorite hadith, and I try and I ask Allah to always help me implement that in my life. Not only to my blood brother, to all my Muslim brothers, and honestly, even to humanity. Because we have, living in the West, living in America, 99% of my neighbors are not Muslim. But if I implement that, and of course, you have to be, I cannot eat and have my neighbor hungry. So if I were to implement that hadith towards my non-Muslim neighbors, not only is that a form of dawah, but it's, the rewards are there. Again, win-win situation. One of my favorite hadiths.
Why should other people learn about Islam or consider becoming a Muslim?
For non-Muslims, tolerance. Tolerance, because, we have the benefit living in America, especially in the New York metro area, of knowing people of different faiths and different religions and different ethnicities and different races. So the more you learn about somebody, the more tolerant you can be with them. And what comes with tolerance? Peace and happiness. And it reduces hatred and it reduces ignorance. Because I was a victim of ignorance when it came to Islam. Let me tell you, ignorance was off the charts. But even as a non-Muslim learning about Islam, I remember thinking, man, this is beautiful, This is nothing like, what they're saying on TV. Nothing at all like the movies portray. So tolerance it's a good byproduct of learning Islam at the lowest level. More than that, if you want peace in your life, let me tell you, I spent 26 months in the military on foreign ground. That does something to you coming home. And the peace that I get from Islam really helps. And I got to tell you, if it helps me, it can help you when you can't get your coffee in the morning, And if you're irritated, it's going to help you.
If you could ask Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam anything, what would it be?
When I first became a Muslim, I was aware who the Prophet was. And I admit I didn't love him because I didn't know who he was. That's why it's very important for Muslims, whether you're born Muslim or revert, doesn't matter, study the seerah and learn about the Prophet and learn the trials he did, learn the mercy he is to the world. And one of the things that sticks out on me is that when he went to Taif and reading that, how they treated him and pelted him with these rocks, that there was blood in his, in his sandals. That hurt me so much. Even thinking about it, I don't like, I wish that didn't happen. But because it happened, he was asked by the angel, if you want, I can take this mountain here and then just crush him. He said, no, because perhaps their offspring will become believers. And look what happened. They became Muslim. And I will ask them, how did you get that mercy? How were you so merciful when these things, horrible things happen to you? How did you keep it together? Because we need that. I need that. Because every day, there's nothing that happens to me or anybody in this world that hasn't happened to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he handled it in a way that is really, it's perfection. And so I want to mimic that way.
You mentioned you were in the military. Were you able to grow your beard? How did you go about that process to do it?
When I realized that the beard is Islam, sisters have hijab, brothers have the beard. When I realized that, and I knew that this is how I want to follow this, I went to my commanding officer and I explained to him, I'm Muslim now, and as part of my religion, I want to grow my beard. Man, you should have seen the look of his face, man. It was like confusion and like, get out of my office. But he didn't say any of that. He didn't say none of that. I could see it in his face. And we have a first sergeant, which is, I was enlisted. And so my commanding officer is a commissioned officer. And so a first sergeant is the highest ranking enlisted troop that is supposed to be our representative and the advisor of the commander. So that my first sergeant's there too. So the first sergeant was like, all right, these are the steps you got to do, in order to, maybe go that way. In my mind, I'm like, these guys are trying to stop me. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going to win this battle one way or another. And so he's giving me a hard time, let me tell you. He barely gave me the steps of how to do it. So, but you know what? I knew one of the ways to go is go to the chaplain's office. All right. Every branch, no matter what branch you're in, they have a chaplain's office. And the chaplain, for those that don't know, is whether it's a priest and an imam too. They have imams and a rabbi, and they're a member of the military, but that's their role. And they're legit, member of their faith. And they have, and in the chaplain's office, they have, workers who work with them of various ranks. Set up an appointment with the chaplain, and they explain to him, this is what I need to do. And ask him, what do I need to do in order to get, I want to grow my beard. And he was aware about Islam a little bit, but he referred me to his assistant. And may Allah bless the assistant, because he, not Muslim, but he is true to his job when it comes to, people and practicing their faith in the military. He said, all right, I have to interview you to make sure you're sincere. Because a lot of guys just want to grow a beard and just look cool, So let's set up a date to, for the interview. And we did. So he asked me, about my sincerity, about Islam, and what I knew about it. So I'm telling him, and he knows all this because as a chaplain's assistant, they have to study every religion. So that way they can help or assist those members of the service that are of those religions. So he knew that, first of all, I was telling him everything that is right. And in his opinion, I was sincere, which I was. So he said, okay, this is what we need to do. There's a packet we have to fill out. There's a request forms and all such things. I'm going to help you with that. So the chaplain's office is essential because you're not going to do it by yourself. The chaplain's office has to endorse everything and then send it to the commander, my commander. And then from there, believe it or not, it has to be sent down to the headquarters in Washington, D.C. This dude my commander didn't want to sign anything. He was giving me he was trying to do the red tape thing, delaying this, delaying that. And so I told the chaplain's assistant, I said, this guy's playing games with me. What can we do? SubhanAllah, in my situation, the chaplain's assistants that I knew, he knew people, very well connected. That's why networking is really good. He made a few phone calls, and they called. One way or another, my commander said, and I'm paraphrasing, and they say, brother, see that piece of paper that's on your desk? Put your rubber stamp on it. This is a courtesy. We don't need you. Hurry up and do it because we don't want more attention from us. So it was, he signed it. And there are stipulations in it. He signed it and it was endorsed. And then it has to go through different ranks to the base commander, which is a colonel and where I was. And so he endorsed it. And so, alhamdulillah, I'm like, good, I can grow my beard. So I'm walking around in uniform with a beard and people looking at me like, who the hell is this guy? Like weird because you don't see that. You don't see that. But again, it's a form of dawah too. Because they will ask me, you're Muslim now? What is that? And I would tell them, this is what Islam is. And so there were a few brothers that actually, and I can see sincerely, want to know more about Islam. So I told them what I could. But alhamdulillah, yeah, you know what? I couldn't grow more than 2 inches, but the beard was there. But then then they changed the rule that you can grow as long as you want to, but then you have to roll it up to appear to 2 inches. I said, oh man, they opened a door for me, man. But it got to the point where, I was nearing my 20th year in the military. And I said to myself, I got my little son. I want to focus more learning the deen because this is taking too much time away from that. So I told my chain of command, I want to retire, I don't want to be that weird guy in uniform with a beard anymore, And so I put in my retirement papers and I honorably retired from the military with a beard, walking around in uniform. So I say to like a lot of brothers who are in the military who want to grow their beard, go to the chaplain's office. It's a smooth process, especially in this day and age. Go to the chaplain's office and you have to be sincere. They want to make sure that you are sincere, not, you just want to be the cool guy with the beard and thinking you're special forces, But yeah, easy process. It was some bumpy roads for me because of my specific commander. But they're genuine. If you have a genuine, sincere commander that wants to care for his troops, he wouldn't give you any problems. And if he's not sincere, so what? The chaplain's going to help you. So that's the key right there, the chaplain.
Okay, think of this scenario. It's the day of judgment. Where would you hope your meeting with Allah would be like?
It's funny you ask me this question because I think about it every day. Lately, every day about the day of judgment. 50,000 years worrying. I say to myself, I'm looking, I imagine my scales and I want my good deeds to be heavy. So I keep saying, subhanAllah, subhanAllah. I said, do dhikr. So at least, while I'm thinking that, I'm like, let me put more weight on it because I'm scared. Because it doesn't matter how good of a Muslim you think you are, nothing's guaranteed. And so and then also the sunnah prayers, because the first question is going to be, how were your prayers? And I know I'm not perfect. One way or another, I'm messing up. So I try to do my sunnah prayers because I learned if I'm not up to standard with my fard prayers. All right, let's look at the sunnah prayers. And so I would want it to be smooth. I ask Allah for His mercy because it doesn't matter what I do, because the only way to get past that and to Jannah is through His mercy. Because even the Prophet ﷺ said, only by Allah's mercy am I going into the paradise. And if the Prophet ﷺ is saying that, who am I? So I got to work hard. I got to work really hard. And I would hope that when I'm standing there, and I get nervous about this, I want it to be smooth. And I want to hear, you are forgiven. And I want to hear Salaam Alaikum from the angels as I'm entering paradise. That's what I would like to that's how I envision it. But those 50,000 years, brothers, I hope, not too much sweat is coming down my forehead, So inshallah, it will go smoothly.
Inshallah. Thank you, brother. May Allah reward you.
Ameen. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.